Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, where we talk about all things paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, did you do anything the past couple weeks since we kind of been like on a mini vacation here for a while because we've been busy celebrating the holidays and all that good stuff?
Not really, other than like Eve.
Yeah, same here. We hung out New Year's Eve, and I think that's all I've really done, just hanging out with the family.
I've been working on my costume project I'm working on.
I did see.
Did you see
you
the
had a
creepy
picture of your yeah?
Well,
what are you doing?
It's from Five Nights at Freddy's, that horror game.
Oh,
so okay. I guess that's related to the podcast technically, since it's horror.
Yeah, is it one of the animatronics? Or
yes,
doing
it's one of the animatronics.
Okay.
He's the daycare attendant, but he's like a freaking creepy clown son person.
Oh. That should be interesting.
And he takes care of children, which is kind of scary.
Okay, he's a clown that takes care of children.
Well, he's not a clown, he's an animatronic, but yeah, there's like a daycare, and basically the whole thing is you have to keep the lights on, because if you turn the lights off, he turns into Moon, which is like this very terrifying animatronic, which is scarier than the sun version of him.
Huh.
But the whole premise is you
weird.
get locked basically in like a Chuck E. Cheese kind of place, and you have to escape. That's the premises of the new game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Interesting.
It has a lot of weird lore, just creepy concepts of like children stuffed inside of animatronics.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very disturbing.
Yeah, sounds a little disturbing and weird. I was gonna say all we did was we went out New Year's, and I think that's been about it, really. First of all, it's been cold, and second of all, just especially trying to get back into the routine of
Omicron.
Things.
People really haven't been going out.
Oh yeah, well,
I don't really have another convention until like February, so I'm just kind of working on projects and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to work on, some stuff ideas that I have. I'm trying to launch my own little store, Etsy store, and so I've been trying to come up with ideas for that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
I just ordered some new products today to test out and see what I can make with it.
All
right. Well, let's go ahead and get started then today with what our topics are. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and go first this time. My topic today is actually a cryptid from Canada. It is called the Ogopogo. It is basically kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. It's a sea creature, but it's technically in a lake, so I guess it's more like a lake creature. So the origin story for the Ogopogo comes from Canadian folklore, and it is a lake monster that lives in the Okanagan Lake, British Columbia, Canada. Okanagan Lake is the largest of 5 freshwater lakes that all connect together. And when you look at it on a map of British Columbia, it looks actually like a serpent, which is kind of interesting. And they all connect together, and the Ogopogo apparently was named after the First Nations people that live there. It was an indigenous tribe that lived there, and that's how it got its name. So a little bit about the Ogopogo and how this kind of all came to be. So Ogopogo is actually called the Nataka, which translates to a water demon, water god, or a sea creature of the water. In native lore, the Nataka demanded a live sacrifice in order for the people to be able to cross the lake. Now, after people have been doing some research on this, and it's come to be believed that when the first settlers came to British Columbia, they misinterpreted what was going on with the First Nation. Apparently, they were not sacrificing animals to the lake as kind of like a lake god thing or whatever. They were actually they would catch salmon from different rivers and stuff like that, and they would give like little bits of the leftover food. They would throw it back into the lake as a way of paying homage, to nature or whatever. But the settlers that came, they misinterpreted that to mean that they were actually, having these ritualistic things, and they were actually, sacrificing small animals like birds, squirrels, that kind of stuff to the lake monster. But that's not really what was going on. Anyway, so the stories grew, and as they grew, the people believed that if you did not offer up a sacrifice to the Ogopogo, or if our lake creature felt it was not a good enough sacrifice, then he would use its tail to create these storms, and the storms were so powerful that they would actually drown people. So, and they said that he would use like his tail, like he would whip his tail, and this would cause the storms, and that's how people would drown, and that was their story, and that's how he came to be known as like this mean kind of creature. But really, he's not. They say he protects the people in the valley of the lake area there from, different things that the Native Americans believe in. So, there's also, interestingly enough, there's also a little island that kind of sits in the middle of this lake, and it sits across from a city called Peachland is the name of the city. And this island, it's called Rattlesnake Island, sits off of there. It's a small island, and legend says that the Ogopogo actually lives in caves underneath this island. So over the years, Rattlesnake Island has now has a new name of Monster Island, because they all feel like this creature is a monster, and so they've named it Monster Island instead of Rattlesnake Island. Rattlesnake Island actually is part of a national park that the lake actually is part of too. It's called Okanagan National Park. And like I said, this island sits in part of that national park. Now, here's something interesting that I thought, it's kind of like a side note to the whole, cryptid story of the Ogopogo. But in 1970, there was this gentleman by the name of Eddie Haymar. And he decided that he was going to develop of Rattlesnake Island into some type of tourist attraction. So he bought the island actually and started building this amusement park on there. And it was it kind of had like an Egyptian theme to it. He had this replica of the Sphinx on there. He had camels, not real camels, but he had made these stone camels or whatever that sat on the island, and he had actually started pouring all the foundations for a putt-putt golf course there. So but in the 70s is what happened is the British Columbian government found out what he was doing, and they were not happy about it. So they basically went to his bank that he had taken the loan out with, and basically screwed him over and told the bank not to let him have that, which a government can't do that. They're not supposed to meddle in things like that. And they did. So basically he lost. This happened, like I said, in the 70s. So he actually opened it up in I think it was 1971 or 2. And he actually had 60 people come, and for one day, it was basically 1 or 2 days, and they got to experience it. But then the government came in and shut him down and told him that he wasn't allowed to have it there. And his bank that he had got the loan from basically retracted the loan. So he got so mad about all this that he went and he went back to where he was from. He was not from originally British Columbia. In fact, he brought his wife and his kids with him to British Columbia thinking they were going to have this new great life. Well, when all that happened, his wife left and took the kids. He lost all of his money. He lost the island that he had bought. The government was only going to pay him $40,000 for it, when originally he had sunk in over $180,000 into it. So he started getting really mad, and he was writing these threatening letters to the British government and stuff. And then he actually went, and one of the embassies, over where he lived, he went back to his country. I believe it was I forget which one, but it was one of the Arab nations, and he went back there and he took over the British Columbia embassy in that country. And he was like, I guess it was all over the news and stuff, all because he was pissed off that they had taken his island from him, and they made it so that, you know, he lost his family and basically his whole life was ruined. So it went to court. The Supreme Court found that the British Columbia government was in the wrong, so they had to pay him back. They paid him back like $260,000 in restitution for what had happened. And with that money, he actually ended up buying a piece of land that was directly across from this island on the mainland called Peachland, like in the Peachland area, and he called it the Peachland Castle. And what he did then is he opened it up as a hotel, and it had this kind of Aladdin vibe to it, okay? It operated for several years. This hotel is still around, by the way. There's only like 6 or 7 rooms to the total hotel. But yeah, so he used all the money he got from that to build this kind of, this castle, and basically give the finger to the government, you know, for not letting him have what he wanted back in the day on the Rattlesnake Island. So I guess it turned out okay for him in the end. I don't know. It seemed like he went through a lot of trouble just to get that money back, but whatever. So anyway, all right. So that was my little side story about it, yeah, because it does have to do with like the whole legend of the thing. But here are some stories about different sightings of the actual the Ogopogo. So the actual first real legit sighting that was actually, somebody gave a detailed account out about, like they actually wrote it down, happened in 1872. And it was by a settler by the name of Susan Allison. And she saw it off the shore of one of the beaches that lies along the riverbed there, along the lake. And she was one of the first people to see it. She was also very good friends with the indigenous people that lived there at the time. And so she knew about some of the stories from them too, but she actually, you know, wrote it down and detailed what she had seen. The next major sighting that was actually recorded was in 1968 by a gentleman of the name of Art Folden. In the story, he says that he was driving along in his car and he saw something moving in the lake. So he pulled off the side of the road, and he had a camera with him at the time, and he started filming what he claimed to be the actual creature. He says he saw something large and lifelike, and that's what drew him to pull over to the side of the road and start taking film. Now, he only was able to get like 10 seconds of film, and it was really grainy and kind of hard to tell what it was. So that was not really like really good proof that it existed or not existed. So that was like the second major time that anybody had any like real concrete proof of this creature. So in the 1980s, this little town in British Columbia decided that they were going to start this big tourism kick, and they were going to actually offer cash to anybody who could, like a cash reward to anybody that could prove that they have seen this beast. Now, Greenpeace got involved, and they were like, because nobody knows whether it's like a real creature or not, they didn't want anybody to kill it. They wanted it to stay alive. So the deal was you couldn't like, you know, kill it and bring it in or anything like that. It had to be like a picture or something of the actual creature before you were going to get the money. There was also in the 80s a huge group sighting of about 50 tourists that saw the Ogopogo for 45 minutes off a beach off the city of Kelowna. And Kelowna actually is where most of these sightings happen to take place. Like there have been sightings even in the past couple of years where people will be walking on, there's like a walking path along the edge of the lake. And people like will be walking on that, and then they'll spot this like creature that kind of like crests up, and it's got these like little humps, and it breaks the water, because usually they say a lot of times it's like very still there. So if anything's moving, you know what I mean, it'll make it, you can definitely tell there's something in the water. So anyway, during in 1980, this group of 50 tourists were like looking at it. But one person in particular by the name of Larry actually shot 8mm film for 10 seconds of it. He said it was about 35 to 40 feet long with 5 sleek jet black humps and a lashing tail. The last few sightings that have occurred, there was a recent one in May of 2021. A lady was, I believe she was sunbathing on the beach, and she happened to notice, like, you know, the ridges coming up and breaking the water and stuff, and she got some pictures of it, but again, it was kind of blurry. Like, everybody that takes pictures of it, it seems to be kind of blurry.
Like messy pics?
Yes, exactly. Like, where you're kind of like, well, it could be or it couldn't be, and then people are like, oh, that's just logs in the water, you know, that kind of silly stuff. But there's an actual guy that's like dedicated his whole life to this, because he actually has seen it twice in his lifetime. The first time he saw it was like in 1978. And then the second time was more recently in like 2019. In his 2019 picture, I mean, it's pretty convincing. He actually has a picture of its head up out of water, and you can like see an eye on it. I mean, it looks weird when you look at this picture, but you can actually like kind of see an eye in it and stuff. And this was like this one was like all over the news and everything, and what got everybody all spun up about this, the Ogopogo again, and they were just trying to do that to get all these tourists to come there. But people say, I mean, it's still spotted quite often. You'd be surprised. And like I said, most of it happens off of Kelowna. That's like the big city where you see, because they have like a lot of condos there apparently. I mean, it's really beautiful from the pictures I saw. I guess because it sits right on the lake. It's like this lakefront property. You can have a view from your balcony of the lake, and that's why people are always spotting it out on the lake.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then.
If that makes sense.
Like overlooking it.
So, yeah, because they're always overlooking it and stuff. But yeah, so that's what I have today. I thought it was interesting. Like I said, it's kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. It's not as well known, but in like, if you go to British Columbia, you'll like hear it. And actually, one of their hockey teams, their logo is the Ogopogo.
Okay, maybe that's where I've heard of it.
So yeah. And, you know, so like I said, we don't know if it's real or not. Scientists aren't sure. They've tried, but you know how that is. It's so hard because the water there is deep. It's so hard to really know what's down there. Some people claim that it could be like a prehistoric whale or something, because of the way it kind of looks and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
But yeah, so that's what I have for today. So what do you got for us today?
Well, I have the Winchester Mystery House.
Ooh, I like this one. This is going to be a doozy.
Yeah, it's a mystery, all right. So
yeah. There's a lot of like crazy stuff that went on in that house, is there not?
Yeah, and just like
she was kind of loony toony.
A little something. She was very weird. She was grieving, I would say, and she took some very interesting precautions. So it's a mansion in San Jose, California, and you can visit it today, and they do have tours, and one of my friends actually toured this place.
My God, you know what, Kara? I'm feeling it. I think we're going to have to go visit. Yes.
Go to California and go. I want to go. It looks so cool.
Doesn't it? Let's go.
Okay, so the house was owned by Sarah Winchester, and she is the widow of William Wirt Winchester. William was the treasurer of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, and William died of tuberculosis on March 7th, 1881. The Winchester Repeating Arms Company is like probably the most well-known rifle company in America during
Winchester
the 1800s.
Rifle.
The Winchester Rifle. So Sarah inherited a lot of money. It was $20.5 million after her husband's death, which was in like the 1800s. So this was, or 1900s.
Can you imagine how much that'd be worth today?
It was. So I actually do have it. It's $550 million in 2020, which might be different. Today in 2022.
Okay. I thought it would be billion.
But then she also received 50% ownership of the company. So she would make about, I can't remember the figure, but it was like a lot of money per day. It was like.
So she is like
every day she was making thousands of dollars on top of that.
Wow. That's awesome. That's crazy.
It was like around like $20,000 a day, which obviously equals a lot different in today's day. So, she, after After her daughter and husband died, because her daughter also died around the same time that her husband died. It was like an infant disease where like basically the baby was malnourished and wasn't eating enough protein, so the baby died. So she sought out a medium. From her friend told her like, oh, you should seek out a medium. So she's, because that's a normal thing to do, I guess.
Right? Yeah.
Because everyone does that.
I guess in Victorian times, though, it was. You know how that was. They all believed in all that
so
kind of stuff.
So she sought out a medium who told her she needed to leave her home and head out west. And she must continuously build a home for the spirits who fell victim to the Winchester rifle. So basically, she believed that her family was cursed because of the Winchester rifle and all of the deaths. So she was kind of paranoid that if she didn't keep building, that she would die.
Or she would lose more people in her family, correct?
She pretty much lost everyone. I'm pretty sure it was just herself.
They all died already. Oh, okay.
And remember, the daughter and her husband died, so she's kind of by herself.
Oh, okay. I thought she had another kid, but I guess I'm wrong.
I don't think so, because I think that was her only child.
Oh, okay.
And then the husband died, so she's not going to have another child. Back in the day.
Well, okay, true. Yeah, no.
Back in the day. Yeah. In 1884, she purchased a farmhouse in Santa Clara Valley, and then she began the process of building. She began hiring carpenters and began working night and day on her mansion. The home had grown over 7 stories tall. There was a tower that was 7 stories tall. Yeah, and
that is insane.
Sarah directed some of the planning herself, leading to some strange additions, such as stairs leading to nowhere. There were windows overlooking other rooms, which is kind of weird, and then doors that go nowhere. In 1906, there was an earthquake that damaged a good portion of the mansion, except, so like, it was mainly the taller portion, so like, it no longer was 7 stories. I believe it's only 4 stories today.
Oh, okay.
After that.
All right.
Because I think the foundation was really good because, you know, California, they have a lot of earthquakes. But the taller portions, it's just not realistic.
It makes sense,
that it's gonna, it's amazing that most of it was okay. But, like, pretty much all of the top stories and a lot of the 4th floor were completely closed because they were condemned, basically. So Sarah dies in September 5th, 1922, and when she dies, there are a total of 161 rooms, 40 bedrooms, 2 ballrooms, 47 fireplaces, 2 basement levels, and there are 3 elevators. There is a seance room in the center of the house, and there are legends.
Oh, of course there would be.
There are legends that nearby residents heard the bell tower located outside of the room at midnight and 2 a.m. every night.
Oh, wow.
And people believed that she would hold seances in there every night at 2 a.m. to receive building instructions, which is kind of weird.
Oh my, that is kind of weird.
So for the seance room, it's a really strange room. There's only 1 entrance, but there are 3 exits. One of the exits is like pretty much a doorway straight to like 3 stories down. So obviously you're not going to take that door.
No, you'll just like drop to your death.
There's one that's a secret passageway that you can only go out of the door. You can't go in, basically.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, a lot of the ghost hunter teams that go there always go to the seance room. It's probably like the most popular.
I was gonna say you know BuzzFeed, they actually went there. Did you see that episode? Yeah, that was funny.
I was researching.
Yeah,
because it's like really. She only had 1 key to this. This is before she died. Obviously now it's open to the public, but she would be the only one allowed to go in that room, and she would hold all of her seances and weird stuff.
Oh. Really? So she only went in there by herself? She never had other people go in there with her?
No, while she was alive, she would not. She would just go up there by herself.
That's weird. So she was having seances by herself, like talking to the dead? That's strange.
Advice from the spirits on how to build her house so that the spirits wouldn't catch her, which is kind of weird. Like I said, there's a lot of like conflicting info, but...
Okay, wait a minute. So she's talking to the spirits that she's trying to get away from to get advice on how to build her house so that she doesn't get caught by them. Yeah, that's very confusing. And then be like,
oh, I can't get you because I made such a confusing...
Right, yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, it's weird. Okay. Maybe they were just there to help her. Who knows?
Out of the 13 bathrooms in this house, there was only one functional one.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense.
So only one of the 13 worked?
And
that is weird.
Supposedly, she would sleep in different rooms every night in the Winchester house, and she would use secret passages to get from one room to the other so that the spirits could not
that's
follow
creepy. Her. Okay. But wait, let's go back to the one bathroom thing. Can you imagine, like, before the earthquake, you're on the 7th floor and you gotta go to the bathroom and it's, like, all the way down on the 1st? Yeah, and she's got, like, all these weird rooms. How would you even get there without peeing your pants? I don't understand.
Like, it doesn't make any sense, like, how the rooms get to each other. And a lot of the rooms were sealed off, you know, because they were weird.
Did she ever have, like, floor plans made of this?
She would make them herself. That was the problem. She was using the ghosts to help her make these floor plans. So I don't know how accurate they are going to be.
Right? How good they are.
Like,
what if the ghost tries to confuse her? What if they're just playing games with her at this point? I mean, this is crazy. Right? Yeah. Okay.
So Harry Houdini actually came here to check out
the
house.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah,
on
that is pretty wild.
October 1924, it was near Halloween. He visited the Winchester estate during his nationwide spiritualism tour. His intention was to debunk the legends and lore circulating about the house, but he left with more questions than answers, and he honestly, he wasn't able to debunk anything, so...
Interesting.
It's very...
Wow.
Yeah. Harry Houdini. And then legends say Sarah believed that the strange floor plan to the mansion would keep the ghosts from killing her, and if continued on the house, if construction on the house stopped, she would die.
Really?
That's what the legends say. We don't know how accurate
So I'm
that
curious.
Is.
On the day she died, did construction stopped, or did she just die of natural causes?
Well, I'm pretty sure, like, construction stopped because she finally died, and they were like, fuck yeah,
right,
finally.
But, right, but my question is, though, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, did her death, was it a result of her stopping construction, or was it a result of her just dying naturally?
I think pretty sure she just died naturally, because she was kind of old.
Oh, okay.
She was born in, like, 1840s, and she died in 1922.
Okay.
So for, like, back then, it was pretty... She lived a decently long
she lived a very long life, yeah.
Considering how paranoid she was, probably.
Yeah, really.
So, when she died, all of her belongings were given to her niece, Marion, who had served as her personal secretary in her life. And then... But the Winchester Mystery House was never mentioned in her will. So, I don't...
What? Really?
Yeah, it's weird. So, like, she didn't give the house to anyone. So
that's strange.
When appraisers deemed the house worthless due to its strange design and damage from the earthquakes and long-winded construction, apparently Marion took everything and auctioned it off. The current homeowners took 6 weeks to empty the house, and then they went, and started making it hospitable because they opened it up for tours after they repurchased the house.
Did you hear, I think it was within the last 10 years, they found another room in the house? Like, it had been buried underground because of the earthquake or whatever?
Yeah.
That was really cool.
It's a really weird place. I really want to go check it out. It sounds cool.
Yeah, that does sound cool.
She would follow specific patterns through the house to lose any spirits who might be following her. So she would, like, go on these specific routes that she knew that they could not follow her on.
So how does she know that? Those spirits float. They can go through walls.
I don't understand how it... I think she was just paranoid.
I don't get it.
When you think about, like, how many people died to those rifles, I could see why she would feel guilty because she basically got all this money because of the deaths of people.
Right, but at the same time, like, it's not her or her husband's fault that these people were dumb that they, didn't have the lock on it, or, you know what I mean, when they were messing around with it, or that's not their fault. The war, some of them are not their fault that they died.
So it's kind of...
Right, and that's not their fault either, You gotta defend yourself.
I mean, I know, I understand, but I could see where...
No, I could see, yeah.
So the hauntings of the house include lights turning on, disembodied voices, breathing, and footsteps. Because a lot of people go and check this place out. And psychologists think that the reason everyone thinks it's haunted is because of the strange layout design, but...
Yep. I could see that. Like the steps, like when the BuzzFeed was there doing it. Remember they were talking about the steps and how you would get very not like disoriented and nauseous feeling, and people were talking about that, and they said it was just from the way the house is laid out and not necessarily
there might not actually
from there being
ghosts,
ghosts or whatever
the way
around.
that it's built is definitely strange.
Right.
And then the Winchester Mystery House is actually the inspiration for the Haunted Mansion ride in Disney World.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I read that. I was like, huh.
Interesting.
But yeah, like I know you mentioned they've been reopening rooms to the public that were originally not like open at the time of her death, because like they said, they sealed a lot of the stuff after the earthquake happened.
Yeah.
And obviously, I just think it'd be a cool place to check out just because of you can get married there. When I was researching, I was like, that's a strange place to get married at.
I don't know that I'd want to,
get married
do that. But
Mystery House.
It'd be neat to go there and check it out, but I don't know that I want to be getting married there. Who wants to bring all that, baggage home with you?
They have, during the weeks of like Halloween, they have like a haunted house thing that they do.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Where basically like during the Halloween months, it's like basically just for Halloween purposes. But yeah.
See, but I feel that it's scary enough without having to add all the
I think it's perfectly scary. Like just like the other place
right,
too. I don't
exactly.
I guess it probably makes them more money.
Right. But I feel like just knowing what you know about the history and all that of this kind of places,
I think it's
scary enough without adding all
because it is not as authentic when you go in with jump scares and
exactly.
Stuff. I'd rather be able to experience something real than the
right. Yeah, I agree. I'm more
because it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. Because you could experience something, but because it's in a haunted house setting, you don't actually know that it's an experience,
a real haunting. Yeah, you just think it's part of the haunted house, and it could really be a real haunting,
or like something happens. But yeah, that's the Winchester Mystery House.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out one day if I'm ever out there.
Sounds like fun. You should go.
I know. Well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. To all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity can't kill these two scaredy cats.